So most likely than not, the title for this episode may sound that like I'm more upset than I am. Not to say that I'm not. I am upset, but let's just get over with this. Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb Initiative. I'm your host, the Weeb. This is a show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week, breaking a bit from the line I was going for, but I mean, this was premeditated. I told you last time. This episode, we were talking about the second movie from Love Live Nijigasaki. Love Live Nijigasaki School Idol Club, Final Chapter 2, aka the sequel from the last movie that came out, I think at this point, 2024. This movie, however, and already getting to the stats, is done by the same studios, so Sunrise, and a bit of help from Cloverworks, the same guys who did mostly Bushido Rock and other things, but I think for the sake of this review, main thing that they did, Bushido Rock. It will come up a bit later. Anyways, so this originally aired on November 2025. The movie has around 1 hour and 15 minutes, something like that. And lo and behold, right now we are on May, compared to the last time when I reviewed the first movie. The subtitle version came out in, I think, April, maybe even March. So there's that. And for the most part, given a pretty brief kind of overview of the whole thing, this is going to cover the other group of idols from Nijigasaki that were not present in the first movie. So, for instance, we are going to talk about Rina, Setsuna, Ai, Karin, Shuriko, and Mia. That being said, however, and this is the main thing, 1 year apart from the production of both movies, I want to say that a lot of things happened, and I mean, for the Western audience, I think that we may say that it did happen. Mainly the unabashedly explosion of Umusume in the public eye. So basically, what just happened was Umusume happened, so there's that. But also at the same time, we need to talk about so there's some changes to the cast, mainly, and the one that I can say for certain, this is the first time in the series where Yuki Setsuna has changed seiyus, voice actresses, due to the theme I talked about last time, that Kusunoki Tomori had to retire early due to her health condition, substituted by Hayashi Koko. Pretty quick overview about that. She did a great job on keeping the character on the same energy and for the most part same voice. I think that if the only chance that you get to actually notice any difference is if you really pay attention, because there's one little tick of difference in her voice from the original seasons of the anime, but even then, she did a great job. She sings so well and so on and so forth. So for the most part, there's no big impact there. However, and this is something that was pointed out by the people in the Discord, and something that the first time that I watched this, I didn't actually notice. But if you watch the first movie, and right now I'm already getting into the review, because talking about the story of this movie would take a few years of my life. But anyways, it's something that the people in the Discord noticed, and I, even after watching once alone, didn't actually get to me, is that when comparing the first to the second movie, the first movie had that kind of more Boshi aesthetic, the art style kind of changing that way. This movie, however, for some reason, and it's something that we could not find consistent evidence about. For some reason, they changed back the art style, so we went back to the original art style of the anime, which is not bad as per se, and for the most part doesn't actually change anything, but it signifies something wrong with the ongoing of this whole thing. And I say that right now because, and this is the part where I go into the story, but spoiler alert, right? I will talk about everything in this movie for the most part, and the story is really bad, and I will explain that. I will not just leave it like that, but it is a combination of senseless drama, unneeded like conflict for no reason. Some of the conflict is not even like well explained, or really, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but for us in the Discord watching this, we went like, I don't get the problem here. And I think for the most part, most people will have that same reaction for them, if I'm not mistaken, because it is really weird the way that they wrote this off. And for that reason, I don't like this movie. That's the simple thing about this. So getting down to the story, basically following the setup from the first movie, there is this whole school idol competition going on, and half the girls goes to Okinawa. That is the first movie, so the rest of the crew. And then now we are following the group that goes to Osaka, Kobe, and I forgot the last city, but it doesn't really change much. The thing is, basically, you exchange the kind of island, more simple sea/beach aesthetic from the first movie to now the more traditional Japanese, the more crowded streets and so on and so forth kind of deal. Easy to say, the movie starts with a really great like presentation shot, the montage of some setting stuff, and really beautiful scenery together with some cutting dialogue and stuff. And 6 minutes into the movie, not getting the record from the first one, because the first one I think was like 5 minutes and 14 seconds, something like that. At this time, taking a bit more time, we get the first song from Shuriko, which is a great song. I don't actually remember any of the names of the songs for this movie. Sorry to disappoint you on that, but I will just leave a blanket term here that every song in this movie is great in its own way. There is one specific song that I have more mixed feelings on, though it is not a nice song, so that I will leave it at that. But a blanket statement, the whole thing in terms of music is really great. Then after Shuriko does her number, she's kind of thrown to the side and doesn't really have much input for the rest of the movie. Not so much like they did with Shizuku and Kanata in the first one. It's, I would say at the very least, a bit worse here, but doesn't really change much of the ongoing of the story. Then we have the introduction of what I would say is the first conflict of the movie, and it is a conflict which I think left us in the Discord at the very least very baffled, because there's no real like good explanation for what the hell happens here. But basically, for one reason or another, Mia's older sister becomes one of the ambassadors of the whole competition, and for one reason or another, she kind of pressures Mia into singing, which then reactivates some kind of trauma in Mia, and then she kind of chickens out because of pressure and stuff. And I think that at some point I am kind of, let's say, more sensible to that kind of stuff after watching Shigatsu Akimi no Uso. Though, and here's the thing, right? This is Love Live, and nobody actually dies, and there's no like real drama to this. So it becomes kind of a weird situation where, for no apparent reason, Mia doesn't actually want to sing. And then when push comes to shove and her sister actually comes to confront her because she needs to sing because she has the family name on the line, she just tells her that she needs to leave with her as soon as the competition is over to then train at home and stuff. And then there's this whole thing where she doesn't actually validate the fact that they are school idols, even though she's already like training her singing with being a school idol and stuff, which in itself is a bit of an oxymoron. Like, oh, you can sing, but not if you are a school idol, even though you are singing more than you would sing if, at the very least to the public, if you were a professional. And then we come back to the fact that they are actually high schoolers, and then the thing kind of gets really messy for some reason. And this is compounded with the fact, and this may be totally on me and not like having read any of the canon, or like not played the visual novel, or maybe not read some manga that I should have, but compounded with everything, there's this real like ship being forced of Rina and Mia, which I don't actually remember from the anime really. If anything, I think Mia in the second season didn't actually have any ships for that matter, and it just becomes kind of strange because Rina like takes all of her effort out of the competition just to get Mia back in to singing and stuff, and kind of proving her sister wrong because school idols are also singers and stuff. And I may sound confused talking about this, but it is because it is confusing, and I cannot like articulate better the way that they wrote this, because it doesn't actually make sense in my head at the least. I cannot explain something that I can make sense myself, and so for that reason there's that. But oh man, basically, right, so there's this whole build up where Mia is constantly trying to do something, then her sister pushes her into like just come with me after everything's finished, and then Rina gets out, does some stuff. It is like really not well set up, because then there's a cop out at the end, but more or less Rina hacks into the app that they use for the competition to then do kind of clandestine stream as a different contestant, which I don't understand why she didn't like just do that for her own presentation, but whatever. Then there is this whole song of, and I don't understand the acronym here, but she uses the synonym of Alan, ALAN. The song is okay. There is the sound signature of Ted Lloyd, because he signs his stuff much like Giga, and it is animated and this I find this kind of funny. It is animated a lot like old Vocaloid stuff of, I think nowadays 2026 kind of deal. Vocaloid stuff is better animated than the old stuff from back in the 2010s, mid 2010s, early 2020s. As a matter of fact, and this debating with the guys in the Discord, this song itself sounds and seems a lot like Echo Feet Gumi. I think it's from Camel Fox, if I'm not mistaken. It sounds a lot like it, which weird, I guess. And then after that, there's this whole build up where Mia finds Rina after investigating some point where she wanted to go, and so on and so forth. And then they force this whole scene, and this is not really like a TCAS per se, but it is something that really bums me out somewhat, because there's this whole scene after that where me and Rina kind of try to reconcile the fact, because seeing that Rina did everything that she did just to encourage Mia back into singing, she kind of feels pressured herself to kind of reciprocate the feeling, and then the scene is so weird, because had it been, and this is a thing, right, had it been any other anime, had this not been Love Live, they would be like kissing there, right there and then and there, like the whole scene about because Rina uses a helmet when she presents and stuff, with Mia taking off Rina's hat and the helmet and stuff, and the whole setup, the whole like crying and the emotional charge kind of dialogue, it really did feel like, holy shit, bro, they're going to kiss, and then they don't, because this is Love Life, which just felt kind of weird. And then right after, like immediately after this whole exchange, Mia goes into her song. Then 2 seconds later, after Mia finishes, then there is Rina's actual song, kind of lumped together, which kind of weird, kind of why? I don't know if they wanted to do something like the first movie, because the first movie, when they did Lanzu's Phoenix and Ayumu's, I always get this wrong, sorry, Stardust Stream, something like that. it was a great moment because the two songs kind of melded together, and I mean Rina's kind of meet together with Mia's and stuff, but it's not the same. You can like try pull the same trick twice at the same time. Like, come on, bro, we already seen that, and kind of just feels weird. And then right after that, you chop this up, we get the second kind of, and I would say conflict, but it is not even that. And it is so simple to resolve that it doesn't feel right, and also becomes a rehash from the first one, where I and Setsuna kind of get in this pity squabble about the fact that Setsuna, because her name isn't actually Setsuna, right? When she finishes high school the next year, because she's a third year at this point, if I'm not mistaken, when she finishes school, she doesn't want her school idol self to come with her. In short, basically killing Setsuna Yuki, because her actual name is, I don't actually remember her real surname, but it's Nana. And then there's this whole thing where I doesn't like the fact that she's trying to kind of erase part of herself, but at the same time it's not really that like, it's not really that serious. It's not really something that will affect them long term. Like, she's still her, and the fuck, like. And the thing is I'm trying to explain this the best I can with the little input that the movie actually gives me. And as much as this sounds stupid, convoluted, and confusing, is because it may be my subconscious trying to translate how much I felt like this was stupid, convoluted, and just outright nonsensical. But the whole thing kind of doesn't work well anyways. And then there's this whole thing on the backdrop, like something about the app doesn't actually work. Then they come out and say that the competition is cancelled, even though they got, I don't know how many hundreds of students to actually travel in the middle of the school season, and now they are trying to say that nothing will happen, and then send everybody back to home. And then after some kind of miracle, because Rina is a hacker and whatever, she can get the surfers back together, and then they say, oh no, the competition is still on, even though it's already been like a few days after that. And so you would imagine that someone would have dipped and gone back home, and now they know that the competition is going back, so you'd have to travel again. Like, what the fuck is this writing? But anyways, the thing is, right, so the whole second conflict about Setsuna and I is resolved with just a whole lot of glazing by each other, and they basically, again, they rehash the same scene that Mia and Rina already had at that moment. It is the same feeling of, had it not been a love life, this would end up with a kiss. And then there is Setsuna's song, which is okay. So again, the music in this movie, okay. But then I have to ask, what the fuck is that outfit? Why is she fucking dressed like a Gundam? Sunrise? Why is Setsuna Yuki dressed like a fucking Gundam? Huh? Nobody's actually saying anything. Why does she look like Barbatos transformed into a dress? Huh? Oh my, I can't hold myself. What the fuck is this movie? Anyways, so after that, then they kind of look together with I Song 2, and lo and behold, the movie basically ends, because then there's this whole kind of one-liner stuff that Karin gets sing by the end, that, oh, this is not the last chance that we'll have to sing, because next stop is Tokyo, because obviously we need the setting for the next movie. And for that reason, I think, and I may be getting this wrong, but I'm pretty sure next movie will be releasing in November 2026. So by the same time next year, I will be talking about the last movie of Love Live, Nijigasaki School Idol Club, also known as my favorite Love Live to date. And just to keep this on going just for a little more, the cut for this episode will be really short. People will be asking like, what the fuck did you just do? And to be fair, I wanted this to be better. I really did. I already, and to my audio only audience, I am sorry. I got mixed up with something at work. I could not get this episode out in time, so this is coming one day late. Sorry again, but I don't know, man. The thing is, right, so the art for this movie is great. The animation in general is really great. The 3D that they use, again, it's the same thing that I talked in the first movie. It is really not egregious. It doesn't really feel like 3D for the most part, so it's really great. And again, the music, every one of the songs, bangers, all of them. The one thing that really pains me to actually watch, the thing that really does me in, is that fucking story. What the hell did you guys just do? And here's the tinfoil hat version of this, right? So I am, in my head canon, someone important in this series just went to work to Cygames in the meantime. I cannot confirm this. It is just my theory. It is not near reality, if anything. I mean, if someone did come out and say no, it's actually true, I'd be kind of impressed. But the thing is, I cannot prove this. I have not read anything that would indicate something like that, but it is the one happening in between the productions of both movies that would lead me to believe that's why the quality of writing went down so much from the first one. And in that sense, I really wish that they had done it better, because I think that the girls in this movie were done dirty with a terrible script, art style which changed, that does not, I think, does not really affect much of the writing itself, but I would say that it is unwarranted. I have not seen any reviews from the Japanese side of the audience which would indicate that they didn't like the bullshit kind of style, even though it was not bad. And so much so that talking about the fact of both art and writing, I remember that the first movie, I rewatched it like twice in a row, just because I felt like it was an okay movie. Like, it was not like high cinema, high art kind of, oh, it will get some kind of prize and some award or something like that. No, but it was so competent in what it did that I just felt like it was a comfy watch. This one is not a competent movie. This one oh my god, it's terribly written. What the fuck is this drama? Why do they have conflicts? I mean, the conflicts on the first movie, and mind me, right, the pair of friends, I don't actually remember their names, they are only for the movie, that were part of Mia's song, Cara Tesoro, in the first movie. They had a bit of a bad squabble, but it was at the release something off, and then there's this whole thing about the movie being kind of just not upside, but the vibes were up, because then there's this whole thing about trying to help someone else, and then there is the Lanzo part which does not, I think, translate to this movie, because I think that the threat from her air quotes here, from her mother were kind of different from Mia's older sister. But the thing is, right, so the vibes were up at the release because they were trying to help someone else. This one is just like internal whatever. So, like, what the fuck, bro? Just like first season levels of writing. Like, the first season had internal squabbles and so on and so forth. Then you came out and just solved everything. But now this, in my fucking second to last movie? Are you serious? Couldn't you think of anything better? Like, anything like less nonsensical? Like, what the fuck? These girls have been together for what, 1 year now? Why am I getting this kind of deal? Like, right now? This is the second to last movie, bro. I will not have them anymore. Not after the third one. That's why I'm so disappointed. My expectations were so high because of the first movie. First movie was so great. Why couldn't they keep the good work? Why? Anyways, this is enough like me crying to the microphone. And well, with that said, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, please share, please follow, depending on the platform you're in. And I hope stick around for next time. Bye.